Hello, everybody. I'm talking to you from Belgrade in Serbia, from a hotel room where I've been this past week, preparing to talk here all day, as I've done in country after country after country since June last year. In this particular trip, and well, in country after country, pretty much for the last 27 years. And I open my remarks with that because there's no question that minds are opening all over the world like never before. I've never seen anything like it that I've witnessed in the past year. In country after country, culture after culture, people are looking at the world through different eyes. Of course, not still the vast majority, but more than ever before. And this is the result of a simple necessity when anyone changes anything, and that's persistence. Continuing day after day, year after year, decade after decade, to keep pressing the same case, keep circulating the same information. And unfortunately, as I've seen over the years, persistence is not always to be seen, even in the alternative media. People come, people go. I don't see how they can go once they realize what's going on. That's beyond my comprehension, but they do. But the very fact that this event is happening is testament to the persistence of people who have kept going, who have put what's right ahead of what necessarily is good for them in the short term anyway. And of course, I'm talking about people like Robert Greene. Robert Greene is an extraordinary human being in the sense that he had absolutely nothing whatsoever to gain by what he's done. Indeed, as we've seen, he had everything to lose. But things don't change by standing on the sidelines, complaining, pointing out what's happening, but doing nothing about it. Things change because of people who are persistent, who say, this is not right, and I'm not resting until I've done everything possible to change what I see. And so for someone like Robert Greene to do what he's done, to go to prison for what he believed, for coming back and coming back again and again, despite blocks, despite setbacks, is a fantastic example of what I mean by persistence. And of course, for those who have horrifically suffered in terms of abuse, sexual abuse, satanic abuse. I mean, you can't comprehend what that experience must be like. I've talked to so many people around the world who've experienced this and experienced the most unspeakable satanic sacrifice rituals. And for them, current events must be encouraging, at least after all this time, that people are in greater numbers opening their mind to the fact that this, on the face of it, fantastic story and these fantastic revelations are not the figment of someone's imagination. They're actually real. And the fact now that more and more people are willing to look at it in a new light, this is my experience anyway, and not to dismiss it with a wave of the hand, which is what, of course, has happened before. Well, you're mad, that will never happen, is due to the, again, persistence of so many dedicated people who, despite all the setbacks, despite all the dismissals, have just kept going and going and going incessantly. So I'm absolutely delighted that this event is happening and this new organization is being created to continue this persistence that we will not stop, we will not shut up, we will not walk away, no matter what. And the difficulty, of course, that people have when they are dealing with this kind of information is incredulity. And that incredulity comes from what I call the program. When I look at a human life all over the world, you know, as you travel the world, as often as I do, you do see that. What's this phrase? Pseudo-randomness. Things appear to be different. They appear to have different names. They appear to have different cultures. But it's extraordinary. Wherever you go, you see the same things and you see the same reactions. The more you look at the world, the more so much is the same wherever you go. Indeed, child sexual abuse and satanic ritual abuse are happening everywhere, all over the world, which is why the same stories keep coming out from Australia, from Britain, from America, from Europe, and so on. But we are entering a time now when incredulity is being diluted by the body of information that's come out. And we're breaking through, slowly but surely, this program, as I call it. And like I was saying, when you look at a human life, it's a program download, it's a perception download. You come out of the womb and your parents are downloading their perceptions to you immediately because they've been through the same program you're about to go through. You then go to school in a dramatically short time, 3-4 years. And now an authority figure from the state is telling you when you can be there, when you can leave, when you can talk, when you can go to the toilet, when you can eat. And crucially, through those formative years, telling you basically the official version of everything. And this is the download. And this goes on through higher education and then, of course, concurrently with the media, the mainstream media, and peer pressure and politicians, scientists, doctors. They've all been through this perceptual download to get their collective version of normal, their collective version of how the world is. And then they go out into the institutions of medicine and science, psychiatry, and politics and all the rest of them, media. And they all take with them this perceptual download that I call the postage stamp consensus. And the point about that is and in relation to the subjects of this event, is that the postage stamp consensus, this download of the perception of normal, is so narrow in its view of the world, so narrow in its perception of possibility, that basically it puts blinkers on people for a lifetime. Because the education system operates within the blinkers in terms of the range of information and possibility we'll talk about. The mainstream media only basically communicates information within the blinkers. Science, doctors, all with one or two honourable exceptions within the blinkers. And so people go through their life like that. And what's really happening in the world, the stuff that we really need to know, it's not happening there where most people are. It's happening over here. And symbolically, it's happening off the postage stamp. And of course, what we're talking about in terms of the scale of child sexual abuse and the scale of satanic ritual abuse is all happening out there. And so, of course, and my goodness me, I know this one. When you start to communicate this information, as so many people watching this will know, it's incredulity that is the biggest block on people grasping the scale, nature, and horror of what's actually going on. Because from this perspective, it can't be happening. They'd never do that. No one would do that. But they do. And they do on a scale that beggars belief. And so this persistence now, particularly in the last 20 years, particularly in the last 10, and particularly in the last 5 or so, as revelations have come out, particularly in Britain, with regard to the rich and famous after the Savile explosion. That persistence is breaking down the incredulity, because people are just so, well, actually, maybe there is something in this. There is a lot of evidence coming out, isn't there? And so I congratulate everyone who has, through these dark years of collective dismissal, continued to press the case, even when no one wanted to hear. Because we are in a new era now, where more and more people, I know this from traveling around the world, talking to people, they are encompassing possibilities that they have never done before. And we need to continue to press on and press on. There'll be setbacks, there'll be disappointments, but continue to press on. Just continuing to circulate information, speak our truth. Because it does. It's like a hammer and chisel at the wall. Every bit is weakening the wall. And, I've been obviously writing and talking about these subjects for a long time. And I know how they were dismissed at one point, and still for many people still dismissed, but not by as many, and not as vehemently as before in so many cases. I remember back in the 1990s, the early 1990s, when I first came across the fact that this was going on. And I was in America at the time, talking to nobody, by the way. You know, talking to 8 people in Chicago or near Chicago, stuff like that, and speaking in people's front rooms, getting up the next morning and driving to the next place to speak to nobody. And it went on week after week after week. But again, persistence. You keep going, and the waters eventually start to break. And when I came across it, it was shocking, but something within me felt this is real, even from the start. And I was fortunate in the sense that as I traveled America in those weeks when I first came across it, we're talking well into the 1990s. I was fortunate that because I was traveling so much, I was meeting so many people, and the evidence, the information, the stories, the accounts, the people I was meeting built up a body of credible evidence for me very quickly. And when I came back to Britain after that, synchronistically, the same started to happen there. And so from the start, it felt right to me that this was real. And of course, in the years and years and years that have followed, the scale of supporting evidence has been absolutely massive. Of course, you know, I go into areas relating to all this that many people that are exposing it don't go into because it's too far out, even for them. But when you talk to people who've taken part in these rituals, often with some of the most famous people in the world, what they describe in terms of entities that these rituals interact with is not only relevant to the subject itself, it's actually relevant to the entire world, the entirety of human society. Because although a lot of people still can't expand their perception to encompass this, satanic rituals are not happening for the sake of it. It's done for a reason, especially the major ones. And it's done to interact with entities outside of this reality. And the brave, extraordinarily brave people who have experienced these rituals and have talked to me about them all over the world, they have provided a very large body of supporting evidence that not only is satanic ritual abuse and satanic ritual going on all over the world on a staggering scale, but that the force, shall we say, that these rituals are interacting with, particularly, like I say, the major ones, is actually the force that's manipulating human society. So one thing I've seen clearly over these nearly 30 years is absolutely nothing is happening in isolation. Everything is a dot within a picture. Everything is a pixel within a picture, a strand within a web. And satanic ritual and satanic ritual abuse is a major, major dot, major strand in this web. In fact, more than a strand, it infests basically the entire web of deceit within human society. Because ultimately, these major, major Satanists, and of course, Satanism and pedophilia, they're basically masks on the same face. That's why I find so many politicians and rich and famous are both Satanists and pedophiles. The two go together. It's a major strand in the web, and infests the entire web, because the entities that are being interacted with in these rituals are the entities that control the web, that ultimately control the banking system, that ultimately control the creation of wars, the creation of economic crashes that devastate the human population, and all these horrors that happen in the world. This is the origin of it. I know people, even in this arena, don't really want to go there, and it's too much for some of them to even grasp that this is what connects out of these subject areas. But it's happening, and we can go on ignoring it and thinking it might go away because it can't be true, but it is true. It ain't going to go away. And so, as well as persistence, on and on and on, I think it's important that we also see the context in which this is happening. Because in the end, through this web, this global web, you cannot divorce satanic ritual abuse and the scale of sexual and violent abuse by the rich and famous. You cannot divorce that from the totality of world affairs, because it's all connected. And it's no coincidence, for instance, that Jimmy Savile was a close bosom buddy of the inner circle of the British royal family. The British royal family are one of these bloodline families that are connected to satanic ritual abuse and paedophilia as expressions of this infestation of these bloodlines, these ruling bloodlines, that drive the direction of the web, and therefore the direction of human society. So it's not a shock. It's what you would expect, that elite, as they perceive themselves, bloodlines like the British royal family and people like the Bush family in America, Father George Bush, so on, and so many others I name in the books, Ted Heath, should be involved in both satanic activities and satanic ritual and paedophilia. And if anyone wants confirmation of how the mainstream media cover this up, they only have to look at the background to Jimmy Savile. If you look at the Savile story, the media are quite okay with a man who's no longer with us to reveal how he sexually abused what seems to be record-breaking numbers of people. And other horrors that he was involved in. Because that's not really a threat to the system. It's not a threat to the web. Because here's a disc jockey, here's a BBC entertainer who was just a very nasty, terribly, deeply unpleasant man. And he hid it from us and all this stuff. But you don't have to go far into the Savile story to see the big connections. And the big connections are the ones the media won't touch. So we have to do it. We have to keep pressing and asking the questions about these connections. And I'll go on doing it and doing it and doing it. And I'm sure many, many others will too. Because there's a few simple questions which take us from Savile into the echelons of this paedophilic, satanic bloodline network. First of all, why would the British royal family have a disc jockey? A very strange man. I mean, even by the way he acted in public. And as the decades passed, an aging disc jockey with apparently no obvious source of income, but he had incredible amounts of money, and houses and cars. And he was an inner circle member of the royal family. Or an inner circle bosom buddy of the royal family.